What is up, Watch fam? Happy Wednesday and welcome to this week's collection review. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and today we're going to be jumping into the watch collection of a pretty bad Irishman, Conor McGregor. Okay, before we get into it, a quick wristwatch check. I'm wearing something that actually Mr. McGregor probably would wear. An Audemars Piguet Royal Oak in yellow gold. It's a reference 4100. It's one of the most beautiful watches, or at least one of the most, intoxicating watches. That's a good word. I've ever worn before. I am blown away by it. It's vintage. It's 36 millimeters. It wears much larger. It's got a gray dial. It's got this just heft of 18 karat yellow gold, and I feel like a total douchebag, like a corporate kind of raider, but in a good way, you know. So anyway, let's get into Mr. McGregor's collection. Number one, which sets the tone for the rest of the collection, definitely bling. We got a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona in solid yellow gold with a black dial, which I also believe is a diamond dial. So it's a very blingy watch. Believe it or not, although the yellow gold and diamond Daytona sounds like something that is like an exploitation of a classic, a sports watch, for bling. The truth is, yellow gold diamond Daytonas actually do have quite a bit of history. I bet most of you didn't even realize that this reference 6270 was a watch, and now a very, very collectible watch. So yeah, even though Conor McGregor's, Daytona here is very blingy and very classic and sports-like, he's got very little reasonable connection to the heritage of the watch. It still does, which is a surprise. But it is very interesting, nonetheless. So moving on to his second watch. He's got the Rolex Day Date 40 in platinum with that honeycomb dial. Another beautiful watch. I think it's very understated, believe it or not. To the naked eye, it doesn't look very important, doesn't look very expensive. But the people like us, people who, know this watch is platinum, know it's a rare Rolex, or, relatively rare, it means a lot. I think it's got a lot of taste. Seriously. He's also got yellow gold, and we'll get into that in a second. But I think that the platinum, Day Date is a class act. So good for you, Conor. Next, he moved into the world of Patek Philippe with a reference 5980, which is the chronograph variation of the Nautilus. It's in two-tone, pink, gold, and steel with this magnificent blue dial. For a watch, it's phenomenal. It shows that Mr. McGregor doesn't end at, precious metal Rolexes. Yeah, he really has gone into some more, not to belittle Rolex by any means, but some more, serious hot horology, watches. I think it's a wonderful piece. I think that it's the reference itself, 5980. I don't like the reference. I think it's too big. I think it totally disrespects the, original Genta design, but that's, I guess, neither here nor there. Still good for Mr. McGregor. It is technically a wonderful watch. Next, we've got a Yachtmaster 2 in yellow gold with that crazy blue bezel. This is a watch that I have held, I've worn, and everything. I think it's really interesting. I love the idea of a complicated, Rolex. I think it's quite, it appeals to like the guttural kind of emotion of yellow gold. So yeah, I actually did kind of like it in a very humiliating kind of way. You're almost embarrassed to admit that you like a watch like this. I do hate the fact that it has Yachtmaster 2 on the bottom of the bezel. I think it's quite ugly. I think it's over-branded and weird looking. But all in all, really, really interesting watch. A watch that I think more people should pay attention to, believe it or not. Next, another yellow gold Rolex, this time the Day Date, the President, if you will, champagne dial. I mean, this is the Rolex, This is the Rolex that probably Conor McGregor wanted since he was a little kid. The rest of the stuff is cool, don't get me wrong, but this is probably the one. This is the icon of, if it's on my wrist, I got a lot of money. I'm successful. And for a poor Irish kid, or for a poor kid, he just happened to be Irish, I think that was probably a grail piece. And honestly, I think it's pretty sexy. So forget the rest of it. It's a pretty sexy watch. And moving beyond that, I've seen a couple of other watches in his Instagram, not necessarily consistently. I've seen some Sky Dwellers, which is another, really interesting watch. Similar to the Yachtmaster 2, I don't love it, but I do recognize that, I can't beg Rolex for complication and then not compliment them when they execute complication. So, good for them. He's got it in rose, I think, on a strap. I think he actually does have two of them. And he's got some other APs and things like I said I haven't seen very often, but have seen. But more importantly, what are my recommendations for Mr. McGregor? I have two. One would be an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak in rose gold with an open work dial, full bracelet, the whole shebang. That watch not only is very true to the original proportions of one of the most important watch designs of all time, the Royal Oak, which I'm wearing right now, but I think the dial configuration, or lack thereof dial, is gorgeous. Pardon my language, but it is. This is one of the most well-finished dials I've ever seen in my life. And for someone that just made like $30 or $50 million fighting Floyd Mayweather, I don't think he's going to care about the, $120,000 he has to blow on an open work AP or whatever the hell the watch costs. So I do think you should spring for that watch, Conor. And then for a dress piece, I know you like wearing suits. I know that he is, although in a very bombastic way, a very formal guy, at least for press conferences. I think that a Longazone Datograph would be a phenomenal watch. One, because it is in precious metal. Two, because it's off the beaten path, and I think will kind of solidify your at least how people in the watch community perceive you as a real geek. The watch has so much bragging rights. You get street cred in the watch community if you own a Datograph. And finally, it's going to fit. It's a big, thick watch. And if Skydwellers and big day dates and Daytonas, and that's what you're comfortable wearing, I can see how it's hard to go with another offering from Longa. Or I could see how it's hard to go with so many other fine watches that I'm interested in. I can see very reasonably that if I showed him a FP Journe, he may be like, listen, it's a little thin. But with the Datograph, this is a hefty, piece of gold or platinum that I think you'll really, really enjoy wearing. So now that I'm talking like directly to Conor. So that's it. I really enjoyed talking about this collection. It's a lot of bling. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I actually do have a real weak spot for just, I don't want to say just bling like Floyd Mayweather, who has an awful taste in watches, in my opinion. It's just all diamond bullshit. But I do have an appreciation for, watches that look and feel really, really expensive. So props to you, Conor. I hope you see this and consider my recommendations, particularly that Datograph. That's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great Wednesday.